Thanks for what you do with your podcast and all the rest. You're doing a great job. Hope everybody keeps tuning in. You get a lot of good info, a lot of insights, understandings of how to get strong, how to stay strong, how to use your strength.
You do a great job, dude. You make things better than they are in real life, I think.
If you don't follow Massenomics, y'all do it. Social media, website, everything.
Massenomics.
Welcome to Massenomics, the world's strongest podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Massenomics. Make sure you go visit Massenomics.com. There you'll find the rest of our powerful content. While you're there, check out our store and buy yourself some of that sweet Massenomics gear.
All right, welcome everyone to episode number 164 of the Massenomics Podcast, the world's strongest podcast, also known as the lifting podcast about nothing. Your two hosts are here again today, Tommy and Tanner. Tommy, what's crappening?
Not a lot. Not a lot at all.
We're back in the saddle again.
Yep, doing what we do best.
Yeah, we're actually cramming a couple episodes into 1 week here.
Yeah, playing some time tricks on you guys.
So you're not going to know what's coming or going.
Yeah. What the hell's happening to you?
So today we are going to talk about podcasts. Mm-hmm. Fitting that this is a podcast. We thought it.
Do you know what a podcast even is, Tanner?
No. Is that something that you stream off of like Hulu Plus?
There you go. That's what it is. Okay. Yep, you've cracked it.
What is the definition of a podcast?
I actually don't know what the actual
free.
Definition is. I don't know.
Is free required?
Well, technically, I don't think it is. I think what it is, it's based off of like
streaming. Is it
streaming
like
audio
RSS,
content? Do you know like an RSS feed is?
Yeah.
I think it operates on like the same technology as that. So you put out a file, and then using like RSS technology, it's basically a blog, I believe. Okay. I mean, it is. It's basically a blog, but then instead of putting out text posts, you're putting out like audio files,
okay.
And so it operates in kind of the same way, I guess.
Do you know about any paid podcasts? Like, have you heard about like not Apple Podcasts, not Stitcher, maybe some other
like apps or
maybe other hosting sites or something that are where it's paid. Well, so they're pay to listen.
This actually is kind of becoming a thing, and a lot of people are sort of rallying against it, and I kind of do agree because it kind of does break what's going on here.
Yeah.
But like you could even say like Spotify right now, they're starting. This podcast is on Spotify. You can listen to it there. But I believe they're starting to produce original content. But what that does now is
like
that
Spotify is.
Yeah, Spotify is. Like, so they might have like a radio show, where they pay this person to produce something with the idea that, okay, if we get a radio show that people like, they're going to want to tune in, every week. But then at that point, it's like, it's kind of a radio show. Now.
Right.
It's not a podcast. So,
right.
And that's really not a whole lot different than what like Sirius XM does with Howard Stern is, they're not really traditional FM radio. It's a service. You subscribe to it. And when you subscribe to it, by paying your monthly fees, then you get to listen to this man do his show, which isn't completely in the nature of podcasts.
Well, is podcasting is free? Does it have to be free in order to be a podcast?
I actually did read an article the other day because this is becoming more common of people like kind of trying to make a point of like, unless you are releasing it for free, you shouldn't call it a podcast because then it is turning into just kind of like a piece of content that you have to pay money for, and depending on your business model, that may or may not be good for you. I don't know.
How much should we charge? Do you think from now on?
It's hard to put money on something that's price on something that's priceless.
That's true. That's what this episode is really about: is how much we're going to start charging you guys to listen to this.
So this is step one of collecting the monies.
We're getting you broke into like starting to subliminally get you to rationalize that podcasts are going to cost money, so that way we can start charging.
So it's called price anchoring. We're gonna just say most people pay $100 a month for this. So by
that's
us
like
offering
the going,
it for 50.
Also in that article you read, that's kind of the going rate, right?
Yeah, $100 a month. Yeah. So by offering
it's
50,
common.
it's we're coming in at half price, but we're bringing twice the value, so you can't pass that deal up.
It's almost costing you not to do it.
Kind of is. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Or it's a life negative if you don't go through on it.
Definitely, yeah. But we're going to talk about fitness podcasts.
Yes.
Oh, before we get started, Tanner, what is your preferred podcast app?
I listen to Apple Podcasts
on your iPhone.
Yes.
You know what my favorite one is?
I would say 99. I mean, I would say 100% of. Occasionally, I might look at something on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I do not. But not very often. Other than that, it's on there.
So mine, and this is fairly well known, but some people don't know. If you use an iPhone, there's an app called Overcast, and I am in love with this podcast app. And the biggest thing is, do you ever listen to podcasts at faster than normal speed?
Sometimes I have.
Like
I haven't been lately because I just forget about it or something.
Well,
but
and a lot of them do.
have.
It does sound kind of shitty when you turn it on.
Yeah.
But what Overcast has that is so awesome is they have
the gaps
they have
or
a feature
something,
called
doesn't it?
Smart Speed. So it looks ahead and it sees gaps in the audio, like silence. And basically what it does is it compresses those. Like it might, we're talking, we stop to think, maybe there's a 2-second gap of nothing. It sees those and it compresses that gap to be. I mean, it doesn't just butt it up to to talking so that it does make sense, but it shrinks that gap so that it starts to cut that stuff out. And then also with its speed, let's say you go to 1 1/4 speed.
Yeah.
It's not just stuck at 1 1/4. It's bouncing between like maybe 1.1 speed and 1.35.
Like when it thinks that.
Yeah. So it's always thinking for when it thinks it should go. So you can get through things surprisingly fast doing it that way. And what actually shocked me the other day, I wasn't aware of this. It's a free app. I've been using it for probably 2 years, maybe even more now. And I went down into the settings just to look. And I was just browsing through because I'm like, oh, maybe there's stuff in this app I don't know about.
Yeah.
And on the very bottom, Smart Speed has saved you 58 hours in speed adjustments. I'm like, that is a lot of audio content that I wouldn't, if I just played at normal speed, that I couldn't say I listened to at this point in time.
That is a lot.
That's almost a third of the Massenomics library right there that you could be getting through.
That is a lot.
So that's something to think about for your iPhone users out there. If you're not using it, I would recommend give it a spin. It sees your library, so you don't have to worry about resubscribing to everything, and try it out. Let me know what you think, because I'm a big fan of that one.
Do you have, before we go into the main thing we're talking about, do you have any newer podcasts that you're listening to that you like?
I think maybe we've mentioned this in the podcast before, is Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
Yeah.
And he has, it's just really, if you're into history at all,
Yeah.
it's really, really entertaining stuff. He doesn't produce a lot of stuff just because his shows range from 3 to 12 hours long.
Yeah.
I like his stuff when it comes out. He does have one. It's more political. It's called Common Sense. I have found that one somewhat interesting lately. Probably my favorite one, though, actually, if I were to recommend one to anybody, would be the Congratulations podcast by Chris D'Elia. And Chris D'Elia is a comedian. He's one of the bigger names in comedy right now. Actually, on the way to the Arnold, Tanner, I did play a clip. So I should just say, if anyone wants to get in and get a taste of this, I actually played a clip. I played a clip for Tanner while we were driving to the Arnold, and Tanner started going into convulsions. And he couldn't talk or breathe. And when he got done, he said, "Holy shit, that's the funniest thing I ever heard." He goes, "I was trying to tell you to stop because my back was cramping, but I couldn't talk."
I couldn't breathe. I could no longer breathe. I felt like I was going to die from not being able to catch my breath from just doing silent laughing, where you can't even laugh because it's just nothing coming out anymore.
I'm gonna find what episode this is. Okay, so it's
And what's the topic of the?
So what gets really fun? Okay, so it's episode 96 is what you need to listen to if you haven't. If you want to get an early intro, just listen to the whole thing.
And this is Chris D'Elia's
Chris
podcast.
D'Elia, yeah, it's called Congratulations. So episode 96 is a really funny one. And what he started doing later on, this is actually one of the first episodes he did it, was he would just read the Craigslist misconnections. And if you're not familiar with Craigslist misconnections are. They're a weird thing. They're a weird, mysterious thing. It's kind of, I mean, first of all, to go on there and write, you have to be a very different type of person already. But I believe the way it is if you see someone that, you had a connection to, or you were attracted to, or you wanted to say something to, and you didn't connect with them, you missed your chance to have this conversation, you go on Craigslist misconnections, you type out your confession of how you saw this person, they were beautiful or incredible or whatever it is, and then you just hope that person is also browsing your local Craigslist and says, yes, that was I did see that person, that's me, they need to get hold of me. So what he does is, he lives in California, he goes on the LA Craigslist and basically just reads, it's just horny gay men looking for other horny gay men, and the things are just like graphic. And I mean, you got to give the guys some points for creativity here. But what's really funny is he's talking about some guy wrote a misconnection for. He said he was at the Whole Foods in Silver Lake or somewhere, and he goes, "I saw you looking at me in the meat section," and he goes right away, "Yeah, meat. Of course they're in the meat section," and he goes, "I saw you check out the bulge. I wasn't wearing any underpants," and so he's reading the whole thing, and he goes, "You know what?" He goes, "If that was a movie, Liam Neeson would be in it," and then he says, "That would be the only movie I would buy all of the tickets for," and then he starts to say, "You just saw the bulge," and starts doing like the whole Liam Neeson.
Oh my God!
And it's really funny. And so that is, if you listen to it, you have to go to episode 96, go towards the end, and it just keeps going and going. But really, you should listen to the whole hour.
You kind of have to listen to the whole thing and then he keeps referencing.
Oh
he keeps going back to it, like in the end of the.
You were looking at the bulge. I will find you and I will kill you.
Well, you can't do a Liam Neeson impersonation.
But first, I will jack you off or whatever. And like he just keeps reading through what this person says, and it's so funny.
You can't do a Liam Neeson impersonation with it's Liam Neeson from Taken.
Yes,
is always like
and that's what it's supposed to be. And then like so someone goes along, and I believe, so they
You stared. I never wear underwear. Love to show it off again. But first, I'll jack you off while I wear no underwear, or I will kill you. You saw the bulge and smiled.
So anyways, it's the people go on and they start like to dub clips of his voice over Liam Neeson's, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
so,
it is really good.
That kind of is probably my hidden gem of it's not even really a hidden gem. It's one of the most popular podcasts right now in the comedy world. But Crystalia, congratulations, highly recommend it.
That is good. On the what's the name of that history one again too?
Hardcore History.
Hardcore History. I know I've listened to one or two of them before. Do you know, is there one specific to World War II? Like, does he do a World War II one?
And I forget the name of it. Well, so he had the one about the bomb called Destroy of Worlds.
Yeah.
And that was actually the one that got me into it.
Okay.
And that was just like crazy hearing about all this stuff because, I took history in high school like every other person. It was like, oh, America went to war and there was a lot of countries involved. And then finally the American scientists teamed up and we built this bomb and we dropped it on Japan and the war was done. And that's kind of how it went, or how it was explained to me growing up. And so like to really hear the ins and outs of all of that stuff. Yeah. And he really goes into that and like asks a lot of questions. But Destroy of Worlds was that one about that. I think you can go on his and what he does because his things are so massive is he keeps a few of them that you can listen to in his feed, and then after that you just have to buy them if you want to go back farther. But I can't remember what the actual one about because there is another one about World War II.
Yeah.
That would probably be supposedly Wrath of Khans is supposed to be one of the best things ever. All about Genghis Khan. It's like 12 hours long. I've had a lot of people recommend that one to me, but I have not got around to it. Apparently, like 1 in 5 people are actually descendants of Genghis Khan himself because he had so many children. Yeah. And apparently he also killed so many people that like the carbon footprint of the world changed.
Because of him.
Because of him, yeah. Hard to wrap your head around, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot there.
Yeah. So that's Crystalia and Hardcore History would be your...
Those would be my two go-to. Besides what we're going to get to on the list here.
Right. So the list.
So should we talk about the list now?
Yes, we should, I think.
All right.
So this list is, we have it titled the Top 10 Best Strength Training Podcast, and this is actually an article we had out previously, almost a couple years ago by now, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, I think the first publishing of this article was probably close to 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Somewhere between 2 and 3.
So what happened was they became outdated. A lot of the podcasts that were on there no longer existed.
It's like the industry we live in is like constantly changing and moving here. Yes. And not everyone's cut out to survive in this cutthroat industry.
Yeah, I think to come up with a list of 10, there was 4 or 5 on the old list that we had to nix out of there and
because they either don't exist
anymore,
or they just don't produce content.
Yes. One of the
a lot of the people that were producing these together aren't associated with each other anymore.
And it's funny too. While doing these, I've talked to some of the people that put out these other podcasts and talked about that fact, how you just like the attrition rate is so high, even of these ones that were what we would consider popular.
That seemed like just
Like that won't go
staples
anywhere.
in the
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
Like this is one of the pillars of the fitness podcast industry.
And then it's gone. And it's gone. And there's so many factors that go into it. A, you have to get along with the people that you're doing it with. Like if you're going to have a podcast for 5 years with someone, like you have to hang out with them for 5 years.
Weekly conversation with someone for 5 years.
So
let's be honest here. A lot of marriages don't last that long. So a casual relationship.
Yes. And then also money. Like that's podcasts that actually get money. Like that could be
so
an
easy
issue.
solution there. If your podcast just never gets money, there's nothing to argue about money wise, right?
It's worked out for us so far.
I believe it was Puff Daddy that said, "More money, more problems."
He also said that he had. Did he also have 99 problems? Or
No, that was Jay-Z.
Hmm.
East Coast
Close
rappers.
enough.
You were
yeah,
close.
Yeah. Okay.
You get your East Coast rappers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling
Yeah. So, anyways, we did have to replace these. We came up with a new list of 10, and we were going to kind of run down them here. And these are all. The title says strength training. It's probably more geared towards powerlifting because we are more geared towards powerlifting as well.
Yeah, but also they are strength training.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Related, so
And it's not powerlifting exclusive in some of these. As we run through them, you'll kind of hear that between their guests and their actual things they're talked to. It's not limited to powerlifting.
Yep. And before we get going here, if you do want to actually read in depth on any of these articles, you can check out the Massenomics. Massenomics.com, go to the blog, and it actually is the top article right now. So otherwise, also if you Google it, we will come up number one.
Yes, if you just Google top strength training podcast or top powerlifting podcast, we'll be one of the very tops on the list.
Yep. So first on the list is Iron Radio, and this one I remember at the time blew my mind because it felt like it had been around forever once I actually saw the number of episodes, and of course now. 2.5 years later, they're still around.
Yeah, and they actually, this was crazy. I had to update this. They just passed the 10-year mark of never missing a weekly episode.
And that
for
does
10
not seem
years.
possible. That does not seem possible.
First of all, they started a podcast 10 years ago.
That also, I didn't know podcasts existed until probably 6 years ago, maybe.
10
and
straight
I
years.
thought like I was doing pretty good when I found out about that. But 10 years ago, like 2009, I for sure never heard the word podcast in 2009.
Yeah. It's crazy. It really is crazy. They have to be on the list. If for nothing else, even if the podcast was awful, they would have to be on the list for that
Just
reason.
Lifetime dedication award.
That's not the case. I don't listen to theirs every week, but their topics span do really, like, they could be considered a strength training podcast because it can be about bodybuilding, about powerlifting, about a lot of like health science stuff,
nutrition,
nutrition science stuff. They have a lot of people that have PhDs and other alphabet stuff,
just like our
behind their
podcast.
name. Yeah, like they have they do deeper dives into specific topics, and it's not a particularly humorous show. That's not their goal. It's more informative, and it's usually a little less off the cuff. And I think that's the people that like that.
Yeah,
that's what that's. They like it because it's not just them bullshitting, like,
Yeah, just throwing facts off the cuff like some other podcast.
Yeah, like some other shitty old podcast. Which brings us to the next one on the list.
So Iron Radio is the first on the list, and these are in no particular order, just going through here.
Yeah.
Number 2 on the list, but number 1 in your hearts would be the Massenomics Podcast. And if you're not familiar with this one, then you're in a really weird position because you're listening to us right now. But we have also hit the 3-year mark.
Yeah, we crossed the 3-year mark,
which I think puts us in pretty elite territory. We've discussed that before. But also not missing a week, going on and on.
Yes, we have never missed. We had a new episode out every single week over that 160. This would be 164 straight weeks. It's pretty crazy.
It is.
And just think, doing that we have to do it at least 3 times longer
we're like
than
almost a third of the way there.
Yeah.
But you guys know who we are by now.
Yeah.
And if you think we're not going to put our own name on a podcast list, then you're just crazy.
Of course. Especially when this list gets a lot of good traffic.
I mean, it does pop up like number 1 in Google when you search for these specific terms. So we're not that dumb.
No, we'd be pretty stupid not to be in there. And plus, I think it's probably deservedly so.
I think so.
I've seen it pop up in other lists that aren't made by us. So
that's how you know it's good.
Yeah.
independently verified.
Yes.
Okay, this next one on the list is the first one to be a new one from the last time we did.
Yes, this one is new. This replaced one of the old ones because it is a little bit newer itself. Most of the ones we brought on, the new ones on this list weren't really around when we did the list the last time,
which is good.
Yeah.
We want to see more people getting into it, I think.
And well, in order for there to still be podcasts, there almost has to be new ones
Oh,
coming in
yeah,
because
yeah.
there's always ones that are quitting and dropping out. And it's the Brocast with Andy and Brandon Allen, and it is. They do a lot of interviews. Every episode is basically an interview. Their format is the first part is those two bullshitting about their training, what they have going on, what meets they're getting ready for, and that sort of thing. And then they usually always bring on a guest, and it's always kind of a top level power lifter. And they'll bring them on. It's always a phone interview. I don't like that as well as in person, but
Yeah.
I guess
just
the
kind of the way it goes
sacrifices for the
sometimes.
quality of guests.
Unless you're Mark Bell, that kind of this is how it works.
Yes, exactly. And they talk a lot about smoking weed and the steroids that they take and all that sort of stuff. Things that you don't hear on
That most podcasts aren't talking about.
Right. So that's probably one of the most interesting parts of theirs is they're really open about all of that.
Which I think people do appreciate in this industry because
Yeah.
there's so many people that are just hiding behind things.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they're holding anything back.
Yeah.
Especially Brandon does not have a filter of anything that he says.
Tanner, you do have one downside listed to this podcast.
Oh, what was it?
Do you want to share with people
Yeah.
what your perceived downside is?
Yes, that's actually a good point. The only downside is having to listen to Brandon try to make it through the full list of their sponsors without completely running out of breath. They have a terrible rundown of their sponsors that they if you listen, this isn't making fun of them. You will agree, I promise, if you listen to their podcast, listen to Brandon go through the sponsors. It's terrible. And if you don't skip past through that, you're like a saint, because I can't imagine anyone not skipping past that 3 minutes of him going through the list of sponsors. They do have some good sponsors, some good.
Yeah, there are some good people there,
yeah.
and you got to do what you got to do to get that money. Right?
Yeah, I don't fault them for that. It's just really, really painful to listen to.
Next on the list, number 4, we have Elite FTS Table Talk, and this would
Yeah.
also be a new one.
Yeah, this one's newer, and I've started listening to this one recently, and I do like this one because I like listening to Dave Tate. He also
a man with a lot of experience.
Yeah, he's got a lot of opinions, and he doesn't really hold back any of his opinions either.
And he can speak from not only that as a lifter, but also as a businessman and equipment manufacturer.
Yeah, like
coach.
a lot. Basically anything in the field.
So yeah, he has kind of every perspective covered when it comes to this.
Yeah, and I like it. Some of them are super long. They'll be like 3 hours long because it'll be him and Jim Wendler sitting around a table and just
going on and on.
Well, and they'll maybe go through listener questions, but in 3 hours they'll answer 7 questions because it's just them.
They have that much they can say.
Yeah, right. It's good though. I don't think there's a lot of episodes out. There's maybe only just about 10 out, and that's another thing. It's usually it's always a guest on there. He's bringing someone on to talk to, and it's guest dependent on if I listen to those or not.
And that is kind of the barrier for entry with a lot of these is do you recognize the guest?
Right.
That's what gets you in.
Yep.
Next up, Iron Minds Podcast.
Yes. The guys from St. Louis, who we actually met them in person for the first time at the Arnold this year. They came up to the booth when we were there, and we got a picture with them and talked to them for a little bit. And they, 2 of them power lift, and the third one bodybuild. So they most commonly cover those 2 lifting genres, the powerlifting and bodybuilding. And they've had some guests on in the past that they did phone interviews, and I think they've kind of gone away from that.
Yeah, and they actually have had a decent amount of like in-person interviews.
Yeah,
lately.
yes, because they like when they go to the Arnold, that's their thing. Is they had Ed
generate
Cohn this
some
year
new
and
content.
Big James,
Yep.
Strickland, and Leroy Walker, several other than that. But yes, they've been doing more in-person ones. And then also they've been having more episodes that are just like a topic and they discuss it rather than an interview so much.
And they're probably more we're probably more similar to each other than
Yes.
most of the podcasts on this
Yes.
list, being that we're not like the real industry insiders or
Exactly.
the top level athletes. So
We Tommy and I really don't claim to be experts on anything that we're doing, and I don't think that they do either with their podcast, and it's just a different perspective. You know, some of these like if you're listening to Dave Tate, like we said, you're listening to someone that has lived every bit of it and knows everything, and you're there listening to him preach about his.
Yeah, he's mostly coming at things from like a point of view of experience,
right. And
whereas us, we're kind of coming at
Yeah.
it more of a as a
hey, this is what we think.
as a fan, and someone that likes to talk about it.
Yes,
and
it's more like you're along the with Iron Minds or ourselves. You're along for the ride with us.
yes,
I think.
yes, that is a better way of putting it. Yeah, or,
Yeah.
you never know what might happen here. This could just blow up any day.
That's true.
And you were along for the ride.
Yeah, and you're along for the ride with us. I mean, you're not really gonna cash in on any of it like we are,
It's
but
not to your advantage. But I guess you can tell your
but you
friends
can say
here
you were
first.
there.
Yep. Those little
It's like
podcast hipsters that
It's
were
like
there
it's like when you know the band before they're cool, and you're like, oh, I liked their stuff on
way
their
before.
first album.
Yep. But no one should say that about our podcast though.
Good point.
So yeah, Iron Minds, they're doing good stuff.
Yep.
Keep at
Yeah,
it.
check theirs out if you don't know about theirs. Give them a listen. Try it out.
Next up, Strength Chat by Kabuki Strength.
Yeah, and this would be Chris Duffin.
Also a
course.
man coming at the industry, speaking about the industry with a lot of experience.
Yeah. And I do like the guys that also have own businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like hearing about. I like, say, Brandon Allen and Andy Huang. They're basically just right now they're living the top level power lifter life, and that is cool to hear that perspective. But I do like these guys that are business owners, and you get to hear some of that in there too. And Duffins, they have a lot of PhD.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they do
have a
get
lot
very
of-
sciencey
yes,
with things.
right.
Like they're not like, oh, we've done this for a long time, so just trust us. We know. Like, no, they are doing a lot of research on
Right.
things. Like,
So there's isn't always the most casual listening, but if there's specific topics out there that you're interested in,
like
it's a good,
they're probably gonna geek out on it pretty hard.
Yes,
and
yes.
Tell you more about it than you ever knew.
right.
And it's not. They do cover, bigger things like, oh yeah, just your major tips, but they also have like little tiny things that they're always talking about too that seem like you're just like tweaking in performance to the like craziest degree.
Yep.
But that's just how much of a microscope they put this stuff under.
Yep. Then what do we got?
Next up, Strong Talk from Starting Strongman.
Yeah, and that would be Cale Beck, and that podcast, his podcast, I think has changed forms a few times over. He was
on the original list though too.
Yeah, he was on the original
So he's
list.
also been doing this quite a while.
Yes. And at first, I think it was him and Robert Oberst. They did a podcast together. Then he had a different guy on there with him, and they have taken some breaks in there. But now, what his podcast really has become is he previews big strongman shows and he recaps big strongman shows.
And that is kind of the unique one about this
Yeah.
is that it's so focused on
Yes.
strongman, whereas these other ones might touch on it. If something
Right.
crazy is happening, they might actually not even talk about it at all. But this one, it's really gonna take care of that strongman
Right.
fix.
And I do like his because they're not that long. And if it's a preview for World's Strongest Man would probably be the biggest preview. But it's usually a preview show would probably be 15 or 20 minutes, and he's just running down the competitors, the events, and kind of how he thinks they'll do. And I like hearing that sometimes, or the competitors, the events, and how they did if it's a recap. And I do like it for that.
Because there's not a lot of resources that provide that
No,
information.
No, really no. I mean, if you're into strongman and want to know that stuff, even of the very highest level,
And even just finding it online is nearly impossible.
yeah, Cale basically is the source for finding that stuff online, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's through his podcast or a YouTube video or his written blog on his website.
Next up, we have The Jug Life.
Yes.
I believe they were on the last list.
They were
and
on
they
the
were
list
kind
before.
of the new kid on the block at that time.
Yeah, they were as we added them to the list last time.
I think they was like just coming out. Like,
Well, and
did they have 5 episodes to their name
Yeah,
even?
maybe. And at the time, their audio quality was horrendous.
It was really
if
bad.
If
yes.
anyone listened to their podcast,
It was like they
at the
recorded it
beginning.
off of their phone and
Yeah.
then just released it.
And it's changed a lot since then. It's gotten way better, much higher production. You can tell that goes
and
into
even
it.
like their subject matter has changed quite a bit too.
Yeah.
From like beers with Chad
Yeah,
to
yeah.
where it used to be focused really specifically on training, they've kind of got into other things and
Yeah.
incorporated people from different.
Like it's a lot more like coaching in general now, where it could be for coaching, like for track and field, for they talk with a lot more
the
coaches.
managing of athletes.
Yeah, right, for sure. It's not so heavily focused on powerlifting, and probably part of that is Chad really. When he started, he was a powerlifter, and at this point, he's really not a powerlifter anymore.
At this point, he's like unrecognizable from who he was when this the guy in this photo right here
does not look like
that
him.
man does not exist anymore.
He's not most of him.
He looks much healthier
Yeah,
now. There's no
yes.
doubt about that. I don't think anyone will question that. But yeah, he's a very different looking person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of crazy just to see how even people can change over this time frame.
Right.
Up next, we have 50% facts, and this one is really interesting in kind of the shoes that it's filling, or the void that it's filling. Maybe you could say.
In a way, this podcast feed was on the old list in a roundabout way.
You do have a point. Yes. Yeah.
It was not 50% facts at that point in time.
So 50% facts. The last closest thing on the list to this would probably have been the Super Training Podcast.
Yeah, Powercast.
Powercast, yes. Yeah. Powercast. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah.
The Powercast, which if you listen to podcasts and you're into powerlifting, there's a good chance you've listened to many, many, many of those episodes. I think it was like for me, I can say one of the first podcasts that got me into this whole like audio lifting thing.
Yep.
I don't think there was a ton around at the time.
Oh, me too, for sure.
And, that was with Mark Bell, Silent Mike, and Jim McD.
Yeah.
Well, over time, this is one of those that falls into the example of things change, people change, situations change. And I know everyone has kind of gone on to do their own different podcast thing. Well, now we're at a point where Silent Mike and Jim McD have teamed up to produce 50% facts.
Yep.
And they're coming at it, they're just kind of coming at the idea of producing this content a little different than, like we handle it, or most people do, where we have a discussion point and we talk about it, or we have a few discussion points and we talk about it, where they kind of do this whole, probably more like we do, kind of this guessing game kind of thing, and just, talking. And then they get someone in that actually knows what they're talking about.
An actual expert. And that's the second half of the show, is kind of talk about what they had right, what they had wrong, and what the real facts are about that topic.
And that's where your 50% facts come from.
Yeah. And if you do, like, all the old Powercast episodes are in that feed also, though. So if you had
that is the thing is, if you look at that feed, it does belong to Jim McD.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, another great one there.
Yep.
After that, we have the Strength Athlete.
Yes.
I believe this was also on the last list.
Yes, it was.
And I think it was also relatively new at that time.
I think that only had a few episodes. Even as of now, a few years later, they don't have a lot of episodes.
I was gonna say this is one that you get an episode maybe every other month or so.
Yeah, that's probably about right on average.
And even then, the quality can still be varying because they have guys calling in, but.
Yeah, you don't listen to this for the consistency or the audio quality, probably.
And also, if you don't care about the USAPL or IPF, you probably also don't listen to this one.
Right.
But
if you are a USAPL or IPF
if you care about
lifter,
those things, especially like the real like nitty-gritty inner workings of all that stuff, this one has got you covered, because these guys train and lift exclusively and coach exclusively in those environments. So they know really what's going on there probably better than almost anyone else.
Yes, for sure.
And Tanner, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah,
wow.
I added. Well, there was only 9 on there.
I was gonna say something changed here.
A lot of people. That's what I was trying to remember all the suggestions that people sent in, and I did not have the Elite FTS table talk on there, and I added that one.
I did get a quick one pulled on me there.
Yeah, there was some other good suggestions, but that was my favorite suggestion, and I said, that one should be on the list, so I added it.
Okay.
Another one that people have said, why isn't this on the list?
You did get a lot of recommendations, as you do with any list you publish, of people feeling like something should be on there. What are some of the other ones you got?
Well, a few, not many people, but I did see at least one person say, well, why don't you have Mark Bell's Power Project on it, or whatever his new one is? And My thing to that is like, I don't know if I consider that a strength training podcast, like in almost any sense.
Like they will get the
word.
occasional guest on that's
Yeah.
still in the
Yeah.
powerlifting world, but
My thing, I wouldn't recommend it to people. Really, it's not my it's not my recommendation.
the motivational
Yeah.
preachy thing gets old after a while.
Yes.
And there's I think everyone maybe has a certain level of tolerance, and some people maybe have a bigger tolerance for that than others. But there just comes a point when it's just like, man, I get it.
Yeah.
You made a slingshot, and you made a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to make this thing out to be more than what it actually is.
Right. And we're not. I don't think we've ever bashed. Like, it's kind of like almost a popular thing.
Oh
to,
yeah,
like,
I think people
bash on Mark.
People think
Mark
it's like
Bell.
really cool. Screw you, Mark
Yeah.
Bell. You're the worst.
And
It's
I
like,
don't
well,
think
but also,
we don't think that.
he's also made. He's
Yeah.
also given more money to the industry than you ever will. So,
Right.
I mean, he has that. So if you're mad at him about the money thing, well, okay, he's given more than you ever will,
Right.
and he's also produced more content than you ever like. No one will. With the exception of only a couple people, and your shitty Instagram feed doesn't count, no one will produce as much content as he has.
Right.
Like, there's no way. So
Right.
he's gotten tons and tons of people into the sport, and isn't that the whole point of this thing, is to
Yeah.
get people involved? So if we're
Yes.
trying to be elitist and gatekeepers and keep people out, I don't know. Are you really doing it? Like,
Right.
what's your what's your purpose then if you're the gatekeeper?
Exactly.
So
So I think we purposely don't try to act like that about. We don't do that about anyone really. First of all, but like,
Yeah.
I think it's lame when a lot of people hate on one thing. To me, it just gets lame.
It almost makes me like things when people
where
start
I'm
hating on it.
Yeah, I'm like, and I just
like to me, I was kind of like bummed out when like the PowerCast sort of broke up because I
Yeah.
like that. But then when everyone's like just starts hating on Mark
Yeah.
Bell, it's like, well, also that just seems like it's popular to do now.
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's really
You're
not
just doing
that
it
cool.
because people are doing that.
And then there's just goes right back to the thing of people just hate to see other successful people.
Right.
And hey, great for you, Mark Bell.
Yeah, so that's why
that has no bearing on my life.
Right. That's why I think it's clear for us. It's not because we think he's terrible or something that's not on the list. It's probably more so than anything. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah,
with the-
and we just don't find the
Right.
message that it doesn't
Right.
resonate with us that well.
Right.
Not to say it doesn't or it shouldn't with you, but
Right.
it just doesn't fit into what we find entertaining that well.
Yes, exactly. There were some other good suggestions.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what those
too.
were.
And
Several of them I had never heard
yeah,
of.
some of them were just probably don't have a huge audience.
And
I
you could
haven't
probably
heard
just
of
go on iTunes, type in powerlifting, strength training, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you'll find. I mean, there obviously is a lot more there, but you'll probably find the ones that were recommended. To
them. And there was some ones that I did recognize, and I was like, oh yeah, that would be a good one to add to the list. And that there was a few of those in there, but
like, I think the Mike Tashir one came up.
Yes.
Is his
That-
like RTS or something like that? Yeah, I think that one
would
came
be
up
good.
a few
Yes,
times.
that's a really good suggestion. I feel like
Another guy with a ton of experience,
Yes,
coaching,
yes.
competing, being around everything.
Yes. And he does keep it up to date on Massenomics now, and has thrown in his 2 cents before, I think, on the Jefferson deadlift even.
Oh.
So yeah,
Well, there
yeah,
you go.
yeah,
It's official.
yes,
Everyone loves it.
yep.
But yeah, that is the list.
Yeah,
Anything else to cover with that, Tanner?
No, the other thing, we get messages quite a bit. At times about other people that are thinking about starting a podcast. Maybe
yes.
thinking about starting a strength training podcast or a powerlifting podcast, and I thought maybe it'd be interesting to hear just our couple minutes of advice of what we think or don't think about that. So, what's your first thought if someone says they're going to start a podcast?
My first thought is do it.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of people be like, oh, it's so saturated. So well, if you're only doing it for the money, then okay, that might matter.
Yeah.
Like
Then you're probably screwed and don't. If that's your only goal.
yeah.
Like.
But if you want to, I don't know, learn something new, get better at something, try and engage with an audience of any
Yeah.
kind, just challenge yourself.
Yep.
I say do it. Like I'm never gonna like knock anybody or discourage anybody from like trying to do something new. Like that's dumb. There's enough
Yeah.
people that are negative about that stuff. So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I say totally do it.
Yeah.
But also understand that it is a lot of work.
Yes.
Like it is a commitment.
Yes.
Just same thing with an apparel business. Anyone can do it. Literally anyone can do it.
There's probably even more people that think they should start.
Yeah,
That's probably
but
even a more extreme.
Anyone can
example.
do it, but not everyone can have the discipline to stay
Yeah.
consistent with it. And that's what it takes to be successful with any of this stuff. And not even successful, but just to like keep with it. You have to just stay disciplined and
Yeah.
be producing stuff all the time because the world moves on without you really, really fast.
Yeah, you have to be realistic, and if you're going to do it, and think to yourself, even if you're doing it completely by yourself, maybe it's going to be a one-man show,
Yep.
and you say, well, I still have to at least every week, and I would say you probably don't have to do it every week, but I guess
you don't have to at all.
But if that's what you're doing, if that's your goal is to put it out weekly, you're going to have to sit down every week, record, and have something to talk about for 30 minutes to an hour plus every week. And then imagine you have to do that, plan on probably doing it for at least a year. I mean, if you're to the point of thinking about wanting to do it, there's no point in doing it.
Your plan should be like, well, if this doesn't take off after a month or two, I'm done.
Because probably it's not going to.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to take off after a year
No,
either.
it's probably not. Not unless...
But then you'll find out if you actually enjoy doing it. If it's a labor of love or just something you're just fighting through.
Yes.
And I think that is where most podcasts fail, is that they just can't produce content.
And there's no reward, you're not like...
and there really isn't much for rewards with this. Like we've done it long enough, and we can say, like, yeah, the reward has been, like, we've got to meet some really cool people. Yes. Like, it has kind of been the start to some relationships with, different people, different businesses, which probably wouldn't have existed in the way they do right now if it wasn't for the podcast.
Yeah.
And
there are definitely rewards for us, like, for doing it, but it's just, like, not always... People think the reward is just getting paid to do the podcast.
Yeah, for us, it's not a thing where, like, we download the balance sheet at the end of the month and say, "Oh, thank you, podcast."
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, it does have a lot of intangible.
Yes,
and, there's some marketing value in it, but I mean, really, we're doing it because we like to do it.
Yeah.
And at the very least, I can say I think I'm somewhat more comfortable with a microphone in front of my face.
That's true. At
the very least, more comfortable hearing my voice. Whereas the first few episodes, that will make your skin crawl.
Yeah.
And now it's like, that's just a dude talking. So
I'm used to that, to the point of that.
It's almost like, that guy said something kind of funny there. Sometimes I think, okay, one of those guys knows what they're talking about once in a while.
Yep.
And I guess that's a win.
Yes.
So when it comes to podcasts, my thing is do it.
Yeah, the equipment and stuff is not a huge hurdle either.
And really, equipment doesn't matter. Like, you'll see, like, Joe Rogan and the Chris D'Elia, one of the ones I recommended. These guys all use really nice microphones that are $500 to $700 a pop. That costs more than our entire setup here, and I'm not sure that the average listener or even most listeners would even know the difference.
Nope.
So
I don't think so.
Like, money almost doesn't matter with the equipment as long as it's not shitty. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah, it's a cheap thing to get into. You don't need anyone's permission. You just do it and have fun with it.
For sure. Sage advice from one of the top 10 best strength training podcasts.
Let's say, and what better source could it come from than one of the best?
They're in no particular order other than the best one is saved for spot number 2
on
the list.
Everyone knows you put number 2, back cleanup.
Well, it was, if we put ourselves number 1, it looks obvious.
Does look,
But if we go number 2, it's like, okay, they weren't being too conceited about it.
Yep. Should we talk about some big lifts?
Yes.
I think actually last week we just had so much to talk about last week. These are all kind of like a week old, but we didn't get to them. But do you want to talk about this first one here with this? How do you even say it? Is it Luke Nall?
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
He had a rookie card. This is how he really knows he's made it. He has a rookie card, at least this past week from Massenomics.
Yes, that is the surefire sign to know that you've made it. I like it when we make those for people, and like a lot of people, they'll comment like, I've made it now. Mm-hmm. It's like very well-established powerlifters. The joke is that's what they...
That's the milestone. Yeah. That's what they do this for.
So what did he do in his first meet ever? And it's funny because we had just recently made Josh Morris's rookie card.
Yeah, and that was our biggest rookie card.
He had almost totaled 2,200, and I'm still not sure if that was maybe at the time it had to have been close to the biggest first meet total.
Yeah, it has to be up there.
And I am pretty sure if that wasn't the best, that Luke's now is. I do not think there's anyone that has a bigger first meet total than this. He totaled 2,281 pounds in his first ever meet.
Are you sure you're not rounding up and down on that number at all, Tanner?
I probably is, and someone will catch.
Because if you're off by 1/10 of a pound, it's kind of
it's a big deal.
It kind of negates what we're all about to say.
That's true.
Okay, so your research tells you 2,281.
Right, and at 23 years old.
And are you sure he was 23? You're not rounding on that number at all?
is like my 7-year-old. You know, the halves are pretty important.
They are halves. Yep,
the quarters can even be important. If you're
because if you say he's 23 and someone finds out listening that he's 23 and a half, someone could get really pissed off about this.
And at 23, I don't know how old you get when the halves stop
Stop
mattering,
having as much importance.
But maybe at 23, it's still kind of a big deal.
Yeah, see, it's been a while since I've been 23, so I had a hard time remembering if I still cared about halves at that point. I might have. I don't know for sure. But yeah, so 2281, 23 years old.
Via a 887-pound squat, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A 622-pound bench, which is huge. Like,
yes.
There's an 887 squat is huge, but a 622 bench in the scheme is even bigger. Like, relatively speaking, that is an enormous full meat bench. And then I cut off a number here, but like a 771 or something, whatever it comes out to.
770 something deadlift.
Yeah. Which that is still crazy, but
it
for
is.
your first meet at 23, but it's probably out of the three is the most in the realm of sanity.
Yeah. God, it's hard to believe that could be someone's actual first.
Yeah. Almost 2,300 pounds. I looked it up. In 2019, I think it is tied for the fourth largest total of the entire year.
Really?
Yeah. The only people who were ahead of him were like Ray Williams, Brandon Allen, just a couple. And all time, I think it was like the 36th biggest total of all years ever raw.
Which is a very respectable first meet.
Yeah.
And so you got to assume that over the next 5 to 10 years, if he stays healthy, there's going to, you would even assume in the next 2 to 3 years, if he stays healthy, there's going to be something really crazy going on.
Right.
But yeah, even looking at long-term picture, if he can keep this going, there could be some unbelievable things on the horizon.
I would sure think so. Another fun fact about Luke is he was might still work there, but maybe Huck doesn't work there anymore, but they are correction officers at the same.
Oh, they are, really?
Yeah, and I don't know if Huck even still works there or not.
But at some point they were correction officers at the same
facility. Which is like, dang, that's kind of crazy.
What's going on at that prison? Yeah. Wow, that is kind of a fun fact.
Yeah. Tom Finn pointed that out on the rookie card. He said, "Oh, I used to work with that guy at wherever." But I read it more in the Tom Finn voice.
Yeah. You kind of said it in the Tom Finn voice.
Used to work with that old son of a bitch. There's that Brandon Popeye Purdue.
Names that I don't know, but I love. The next one on the big lifts, Luke Richardson deadlifted 400 kilos, so 881, 882, whatever that is. Enormous deadlift.
Yeah.
For someone that is
he's IPF
competing in IPF.
Is he U.S.? Is he American or is
no?
he British?
I think he's British. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's British. Yeah. But insane numbers. I believe he was going to
especially for a British guy.
Exactly. Yeah. When they're not talking about Austin Powers or Rolling Stones or whatever they do over there, I guess somebody can deadlift too. But I think I heard that maybe he was going to be going to Worlds, IPF Worlds, but I think maybe he's hurt or something like that, and so this was kind of like just a YOLO lift in training just to see if it was there, and it was there.
You only lift once.
It's words to live by. And then the last one, I don't know how to say the guy's name, so my note says Russian guy, and that's probably the most important thing here. And he, there was some WRPF meet in Russia. And he, at 198 pounds, benched 601. And that has to be a record, right?
I think that's probably for the 198 class. I would assume that.
And it happened
in a full meet.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
And it happened. And actually, I don't even know if it was a full meet. It could have been bench only, I guess. But it happened recently enough that I'm sure Open Powerlifting doesn't have it in their actual. I'm looking in their actual records. Well, I shouldn't look under squat if I'm looking for a bench. That could be the first problem.
What are the 198?
Yeah, right now bench in a full power, the biggest ever is 545 at 198, and then bench ever is 595.
So
it actually might be the same guy because it is a Russian name in 2018.
Oh, okay.
But either way, 601.
Yeah.
I guess when you can bench 600 pounds at under 200.
It's pretty
That's
crazy.
a 3 times body weight bench.
Yeah.
That's
that is
really,
nuts.
really good.
There's I didn't have on the list, but I just thought about it here because it's current. Do you remember at the Arnold Classic, the guy that was the amateur, the guy that wins the amateur strongman gets to compete
with the
and
big
do you
guys.
remember that guy this year?
Yeah, what was his name again?
Novikov. I think
Yes,
it might be.
yes.
Is it Alexei or
Yes.
something like that? His Instagram is in Russian or whatever, so I can't read his
Not
name. even.
English?
Yeah, but wasn't he Russian?
I'm not even sure
Or
what he
some-
was for sure.
Yeah, something like that. So he has now, the Arnold circuit. The Arnold in Columbus is.
Yep, they do like South Africa.
Yeah.
South America. I think they usually do one in South Africa too. I think they have one like in
Yes.
Australia.
Yes. Well, he just won his second since the Arnold. Now he has won 2 of those pro shows. Like
So
beating,
he's really making the rounds on this thing.
and he's beating. Well, in this one, second place was Mateus, and third place was Jerry Pritchett.
Wow.
From the one this weekend.
Okay.
He won, yeah. So, everyone's kind of been talking about Mateus and Martins as the next 2.
But this guy's making a real run at it.
Yeah,
things
he
all of a
just beat
sudden.
Mateus.
Yeah.
And
wow.
this is his second one of these. So this was what, I don't know what one, if this was Africa or where it was. It's not really important, but he's won 2 of those now.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
So that could be, one of the.
And
you want to say
way
that's one-
smaller. Like
Yeah,
he
he
looks,
can't be much
looks
over 6
way
feet if
smaller
he
than
is even.
Mateus, yeah. No, I mean, Mateus is big.
Well,
but,
I was gonna say because
like,
Mateus is so small.
Yeah, right. But he'll be interesting to watch for
For sure.
that guy.
Wow.
And he was the amateur winner just a year. He wasn't even in. He
Which
is
makes
just
you-
freshly
yeah.
professional.
Makes you want to think that he would for sure just be
Yeah.
on the stage next year.
Yes. So do we have time for over under?
We
Overrated,
do,
underrated.
we do.
All right. Fitness is finest. We're not going to do this week, but we are
Yep.
going to get
after
back to
rave
next week.
reviews last
Yeah.
week, we on a time crunch here. We had some major things to discuss
But,
on the podcast, but we will get back to
I am
that
excited to get back for it. I think
We have a lot to cover too.
I think it went over really well.
I've
hasn't.
been looking through the darkest corners of fitness's history.
Yeah.
And
Come
found
up
some,
with the
found some more
finest.
fun things for us.
Yeah. So underrated or overrated? I struggle with the rules. If I do have to read the full rules every time.
Yeah, you got a point.
People get on my case now when we don't read them. I guess I'm going to read them really quickly here.
Okay.
Underrated, overrated consists of lightning round questions asked by myself to Tommy. The questions come from a variety of topics, including but not limited to pop culture, current events, food, and technology. There are also lifting-related topics sprinkled in. It's important to remember that the questions are, in fact, lightning round, but the answers are not necessarily. Tommy has his druthers when it comes to the length of the answers. What are druthers, you ask? Well, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines druthers as a person's preferences in a matter. All that being said, there does have to be a final answer. This initial issue of overrated, underrated must be clearly resolved at the end. So we're up to speed on that again. I'm not going to go over the FAQ
that was
section.
really helpful,
this-
Tanner.
I won't. I'll skip.
FAQs.
I'll skip
Okay,
the FAQ section
we'll
this
save those
time.
for
So
next time.
next time I'll just do the FAQ section.
There we go.
So that's how we can divide and conquer the rules, so that everyone's abreast on the rules as much as possible without having to go over it completely every episode. But if you do need further insight on the rules, just listen to previous episodes.
Or just let us know, and we'll make sure to include it the next time.
Yes, and if you notice anything missing in the rules, let me know, because I would hate for there to be gray areas.
Incredible oversight on our part.
Yes, so underrated or overrated topic number 1, Matt Damon.
Wow. Really going at things that I didn't think I had any opinion on right out of the gate here. Matt Damon. Well, you can't hardly say Matt Damon's name now without thinking about the Team America World Police. Matt Damon, where he just can only say his name.
Yeah.
Fun fact, this actually isn't that fun of a fact, but I had not seen Good Will Hunting until just a few months ago.
Really?
And then I was like, whoa, okay, this Matt Damon guy's got
Good Will
something going
Hunting
on
is
here.
really good.
It was really, really good.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those that I felt like it was just like the movie. It's kind of like The Matrix in the way that it's kind of like just this meme of it. Like you almost can't even take the original thing seriously because it's been parodied.
so much stuff.
And there's so much stuff around it.
Yeah. I really like Good
But
Will
I felt like
Hunting.
I maybe had distanced myself enough from those, and I watched it, and I was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of very 90s things in here. And
Yeah.
like the super heavy Boston accents
Yeah.
and those type of things. But
Southeast.
yeah, but it was a really good movie, and that that actually did change my opinion on Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Because before that, I didn't know him for much, really.
Yeah.
And if it was, it wasn't.
What's the Jason Bourne?
See, and I never watched
I'm not
those
that big
ones,
on that,
really.
I
I think I'd seen the first one, and after that, I just kind of gave up on them. And what was the Martian?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Never saw it either. Want to see it, haven't
Yeah.
seen it yet, though.
I watched that in a plane. That was a good plane.
Yeah, that
plane
would be
ride.
good.
Yeah.
Matt Damon. See, it just feels like he's not really doing anything right now, though, is he?
Yeah, and I don't know how people are rating him out there.
I don't know if people are rating him over either.
Do you think he's huge? I mean, he's pretty popular, right? Like,
I think he's more kind of like one of the
but
guys.
people don't like is he overinflated? Do you think? Like, are people?
That's
the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the real question here. He's probably underrated.
Yeah.
If this came out in the early 2000s, you could probably say he's overrated.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think he's doing much right now, he's probably just underrated because I don't think he has much of a rating right now.
He's had some pretty funny cameos on Saturday Night Live.
He has, yes.
Yeah, 'cause
actually,
he played
that alone makes me do want to say he's underrated because
the
he's doing that
Supreme
stuff.
Court justice guy.
Yeah.
That was drinking beers and stuff and partying, whatever that. I mean,
Yep.
I don't follow that closely enough to even to remember his name, and the whole country knew it. But Matt Damon was pretty funny on there as that.
Kavanaugh.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's. I did like those.
Yeah. So you said underrated.
I'll go
Okay.
underrated on Mr. Damon.
Okay, underrated or overrated? Sweet potatoes. In any form.
I immediately want to say overrated because people like to freak out about sweet potatoes. Like, oh, sweet potato fries. But they are pretty good, though, is the thing. I'm
like
saying
it.
sweet potatoes more in general than sweet potato fries.
Right. Well, you can't, by saying sweet potatoes, you almost have to compare it directly to the white potato.
All right. I've asked myself this question countless times. Never have taken the 2 seconds to Google it. Is there actually a difference between sweet potatoes and yams? Or is
as
the
far
name
as I
interchangeable?
understand, as far as I understand, it has something to the difference of where it's grown in the world.
Really?
I'm not positive on that. That's my fairly uneducated.
According to Google, the sweet orange-colored root vegetable that you love so dearly is actually called a sweet potato. Yes, also called yams are in fact sweet potatoes. Are yams and sweet potatoes different? The truth is, yams and sweet potatoes are very different root vegetables. Sweet potato, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even get a straight answer from Google here. This is really annoying. A true According to this, a true yam just looks like a regular old potato to me. But I don't think that that's right either.
Yeah.
Well, either way.
Inconclusive at this point.
Yep. Jury's still out. No one knows apparently. But I think sweet potatoes are underrated. Like, they're one of those things that you can't. When you make a sweet potato, do you just pop in the microwave?
I've done that before. Yeah.
I did that for a long time. I just pop a sweet potato in the microwave for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And it's surprisingly good for just being
yeah.
microwaved. Like, normally things you put in the microwave for more than 2 minutes are always a little suspect. Or at the very least, they're a shitty frozen food.
Yeah.
A yam is one of the few things that can hit the 5-minute mark and still kind of be like natural and good.
Yeah.
So
a sweet potato with some butter on it, melted butter, is pretty good. And sweet potatoes are far less dry than a white potato.
Yes, and sweet potatoes are one of the few things that I am okay with putting a little bit of ranch on.
Oh yeah.
And I do think it complements it pretty nicely. So
So
sweet potatoes are underrated.
What do you like better, a sweet potato or a potato? A baked, if you're gonna have them just basically plain.
Well,
like not,
just plain. If
Yeah.
I'm having just the plain ones,
Yeah.
I'm probably
if you say nah, I'm good with the plain ones.
if I'm going just straight up plain, I'd pick a sweet potato. But like a baked potato with sour cream and like butter and all the stuff on it, I might pick a baked potato maybe. That's pretty because I really like potatoes.
Yeah.
Like mashed
But
potatoes.
Can you imagine something much harder to choke down than
then just a dry-ass
plain
potato.
potato with no butter, no sour cream, and not even a water to drink. If you just-
No. Yeah, with none of those things. And then also make sure it's kind of warm,
Yeah.
too. So it's like,
How hungry would you have to be to like really be like that's really I think that's like next time you say like I'm starving
yeah, it's like, well, there's a warm-ass potato over there for
with
you.
nothing on it, will
Yeah.
you eat it? And if you're like, oh, that sounds great, like give it, and you start shoveling it in.
It has to be,
yes.
like, it can't be sliced. It has to be a baked potato variety.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the real test of hunger right there.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. All right. So underrated or overrated money clips?
Okay, when you say money clips, do you mean a clip that literally only holds money?
That's kind of what I'm thinking, but
All right.
maybe there's a hybrid.
Well, because my wallet, I don't even have it on me. I hate bifolds or trifolds.
Yeah.
I hate chunky wallets.
Yeah.
I hate having more
To
stuff
sit
on
on
me.
it.
I hate having more stuff on me than I have to. And a big, chunky bifold wallet that most of my friends, Tanner, you might even be in this group. I don't know. I think Tyler was.
he had an enormous.
He had like a
one.
wallet that
Yeah,
had
mine's
probably
too big.
Probably had, I don't know, anywhere between 15 and 30 cards in it. Not business cards, just like a variety of identification cards.
Probably to the point where
payment
you don't
cards.
even know for sure what.
Oh yeah,
it
and I
all
think he
is.
was the first one to
Yeah.
admit that like this thing
Yeah.
is trash.
I have way too. I have a bifold and it has too much stuff, but some of the stuff I just don't know how I could get what I would do with it if it wasn't in my wallet.
Yep.
Like,
So my solution, and this is the wallet I have, it's the best one I have found. It's made by Fossil, and the backside has like a magnetic. It's like just like a little card sleeve basically, and then it has a magnetic like clip on it that you can put money into. And so it makes this nice little compact thing that's not much bigger than if you just had a few cards stacked and the money together. So I like things really thin. And so that in that, like on my wallet, I'm carrying my ID. I have a credit card, debit card. I have a card for my business. And I think I have my health insurance card. So I carry 5 cards on me. Usually I have no cash.
Yeah.
Because that's the world we live in and you kind of don't really need cash anymore. But then if I do, I have my 5 cards and a few bills of cash in there. Yeah. And that's it.
a few hundreds.
A few hondos, depends on
And
if
$2 bills.
Depends on if the lift short money came in that week or not. But that for me is the perfect amount. Now, could I handle a money clip? I think I could handle a money clip, and I'd be cool with that. It's just now it's a separate thing, so I got 2 things to keep track of. But
that's really what I was thinking is just
because some people do, they will have like if you carry enough cash on you, people will put it in a money clip and then just like throw it in their front pocket. I never have that much cash on me, so I don't do that. But I do think a money clip is probably underrated because I think a lot of guys carry way more than they need to in their wallets.
I feel like most people wouldn't. Like they'd be like, "Oh, you're right," but I still,
do it. It's one of those weird exercises where you look at it, it's like, well, do you really need those things?
Yeah.
Though? Like, do you need? Assuming you have multiple bank accounts, do you need all of the debit cards on you, or like some of those only things that you access once in a while? It's like, do you need multiple credit cards on you all the time?
Yeah.
Or like, do you need all of those other just random ID cards from like every gym you've ever been a member of? Like, you probably have a student ID and you haven't been in college for like 8 years in there. So I would challenge people to maybe do some tidying up on the old wallet.
Yeah. So you said underrated on the money
clip is underrated. Yeah.
Okay. Last topic: underrated or overrated? Nutella.
I think Nutella's.
Everyone knows what Nutella is.
I think it's overrated. And I feel like I got tricked on it right away. This was before I kind of got into fitnessing at all. And I remember I was in college and someone's like, "Oh yeah, this stuff." I'm like, "What is it?" Like, "It's Nutella." I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They're like, "Oh, seriously? Like this stuff is so good. Like it's like just like peanut butter, but it tastes like chocolate and it's super healthy and good and all this stuff." And I was like, "Really?" And like I got some and I'm like, "Damn, this stuff is really, really tasty."
Yeah.
It's like, how can it taste so good and like have no sugar and be healthy and good for you? And then you look, it's like, no, it's not really healthy or good for you. It's basically just chocolate frosting. So, and then the people that like
it's hazelnuts, right? Is the main ingredient.
To me, it's more of a chocolate flavor though.
Yeah. But that's the number one ingredient.
I think so.
I think so. Maybe it's not even the number one.
But it's not really that healthy for you at all. It's just like a chocolate spread you put on things.
Yeah.
Let's find some quick nutrition facts on this. It's
But isn't it a thing that some people
Nutella
are like,
contains 70% saturated fat from processed sugar. Oh, here, let's just look at the actual thing. Nutella. Okay, you do get 3.9 grams of protein per serving. You also, there's 20 grams of carbs per serving too. It's, I mean, you could have worse things, but it's really not like this superfood or anything good.
But some people go nuts about it.
People
right?
do like to freak out about it.
Well, because it's like you spread chocolate frosting on anything, it tastes pretty good, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't buy it, so already I guess by not buying it, I'm kind of saying with my wallet that it's overrated.
I don't think we've ever had it in our house. I've had it somewhere before, but I can't even exactly remember where.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me too. I wouldn't mind eating some. I wouldn't mind eating some.
I like
but
that. I don't know if you noticed.
Just poop.
It's funny 'cause it kind of looks.
Someone has a bottle here. They took the Nutella label and just changed it so it says poop. And the name of the article is 5 Reasons Nutella Should Be Banned. So they obviously think it's overrated.
Yeah.
Probably more so than they even should. I'm not going to go that far, but
I do like what they did there.
I'll say Nutella is overrated.
Because it's poop. All right, so that is the last underrated, overrated topic. As always, you can follow along with those on Instagram this week and cast your vote. If you think Tommy messed up on one of his ratings there, you have your chance.
I think the Matt Damon one might have the biggest variance.
Because you said over.
I think I said
that. Yeah, that. Wait a second. We do like to or you said under.
I think I said underrated. Yeah.
So you think
that's how strongly I feel about it.
We do like to go. Now it is fun to say what
the
do we think the
recap.
public is going to do. So on Matt Damon, you said underrated. What do you think the public is going to be?
Actually, they might be pretty split on that one. Actually,
I see that. As
I think that one because a lot of people are gonna be like, I don't care about this.
People really dislike Matt Damon.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I see 50-50 maybe underrated.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah, I'll go with that one. What was number 2?
Money Clips or
no? That was the last, or that was before.
I've already forgotten. I'll have it here though. Sweet potatoes.
Oh, sweet potatoes.
And you said
that
underrated.
could be.
I can see that close too. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty close too. Because these are things people won't have opinions on.
Yeah. And then Money Clips.
Money Clips. I think
you said.
I think they're underrated. People are probably going to say overrated.
If I were to guess, I would say the populace will say overrated.
Just because they don't have them, so they're going to say overrated.
Yeah. And then the last one, Nutella, you said
overrated. I think people will say overrated.
I think so too. Yeah. Some people are going to love it and be like, way underrated. Yeah. But I think the vast one, because it's rated so highly amongst some people, that's immediately where it's like, well, it's overrated.
Yep. That's easy. Yeah, that's an easy one there.
Okay, we'll see how your predictions were, or how your answers were in comparison to the prediction or popular opinion, and we'll also hear how our predictions of the popular opinion were. Mm-hmm. So many different ways we can analyze over under now.
It's a real statistical brain buster.
That's it for this episode. I think it was 164. So we'll be back in the saddle here for 165 coming up soon. As of the time you're hearing this, the new shirt is available.
That new.
So we don't have it here in front of us.
We don't, because we're so far ahead of time here.
Yeah, which doesn't always
the
happen.
Jefferson deadlift shirt, I think, has taken the world by storm.
Yeah.
Sumo and conventional is no longer allowed in any powerlifting meet. If the whole marketing plan worked, we've completely outlawed any deadlifting that's not Jefferson.
Yes.
And we are now in a new world.
The shirt's pretty sweet.
The shirt's very sweet.
We still haven't held it in our hand, but we know what it looks like, and it's on the black. If you haven't
barring
seen it
any
yet,
major production catastrophe or shipping catastrophe, they look incredible.
Yeah. Go to our site if you haven't seen it yet, but it's a black tee with the white our Jefferson Deadlift logo on it. It's awesome. He is wearing a lift logo.
Thomas Jefferson deadlifting, doing a Jefferson deadlift to 1,776 pounds.
Yeah.
A lot of little Massenomics tie-ins in there. Yeah, it's just the artwork is
and the back of
second
the shirt.
to none.
The back of the shirt has a pretty cool Massenomics branded plate on the back of it, which is also really cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really nice piece of apparel.
It's pretty sweet.
Little change of pace for us too.
Yes,
so I'm excited about this one.
So go and buy as many of those as you can. Maybe there's none available. I don't know. Maybe it just sold like insanely quick, which I could see happening. So
it could have, yeah.
This is your last fair warning to go get one while you still can. Mm-hmm. And then you can buy all the other stuff.
And also, if you do buy that shirt, make sure you do a Jefferson deadlift in it.
Yes,
we want to
start. Us in it.
Yeah, we want to start reposting some of these. So this will be your chance to get reposted.
I mean, you can do anything in it and take.
Yeah, anything is fine, but
like the coolest thing is do it a Jefferson deadlift.
Yeah, and preferably it would be so we can see the shirt
and
too.
And then also act like all other deadlifts suck. And,
Yeah,
know,
you have to act like you're superior
Yes.
to any peasant that's doing a regular
right,
deadlift.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
Low life scumbags that don't Jefferson deadlift. So that's on our store. The podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We need a few more of those so we can read some of those for next week. And then like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to follow us on our Instagram accounts. What do we got for the Instagram accounts?
At Tomahawk_D.
And follow the official Massenomics page at Massenomics. We will catch you next time for episode 165.
See ya.
You just heard the Massenomics Podcast. With your ears, you're welcome. Check us out on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Massenomics, and make sure you visit Massenomics.com and buy some of that sweet Massenomics gear. From your friends at Massenomics Studio, home of the world's strongest podcast, stay strong.